Hi everybody, this is Sam with Python Basics, and we are going to do a little bit with strings, and we're actually going to find the longest. We're going to do a little run through, find the longest substring. So, alright, I'm going to pause this right here so we can work with this, or pause this right here, look at it, copy this, and then we'll go from there. Alright, you got it? Okay. So, alright, we need, and what I want when I say the longest substring in order. So, what we need to do is we would catch A, B, C, so that would be it, then A, and also if it is the same, we're going to count it. So A, then F, so that'd be the next longest. Then it goes back to A, starts over, AH, then B by itself, then AA. So here is actually the longest substring, and we're going to figure out a way to get this to come out. So in this series, we're going to use the tools we have. Then I'm going to redo this, and we're going to venture into a new area after this series. So alright, let's just jump into it. So we have a couple extra variables. So alright, because we're going to compare, because this is how we're going to build this algorithm, just so you can think about it. We're going to compare this with the next, and it has to be greater than or equal to, and we're going to use our ASCII function that's built in for Python. And if you don't know that, go do a search on that, come back, watch this one. I'll have a description in the I'll have a video in the description so you can go and look at that. But ASCII turns every character in with the computer into a numerical value. So that's how we're going to know that these are sequential. Alright, so now the next two variables we're going to do, and also just the way that we need to think about this is that, let's say this is the longest right here, then we have, and we need to store this and compare all the others. So there's a couple things we got it going on. So that's what we're going to do here. We have our starting point. Oops, this is X index 0. So we're going to start here. Then we need to compare this with the next letter, and then so on and so forth. So we're just going to continue on down. And then once this fails, we need to store this substring. We need to have a place, and then we also need to check and see how long it is, right? So that's what we're going to do. So that's what all these variables are. So sub is the first, because we have to have a starting point. All programs have to have a starting point. So our starting point is going to be A. Not A in the alphabet, but A at the beginning of our string. So that's going to be our longest, so that's what we're going to replace. So our substring is always what we're going to be testing, comparing the next letter with. Then if it becomes the longest, so whatever, think about this, the first time through, whichever one we're testing and it keeps getting longer and longer, that's always going to be our new longest. And then once it fails, whatever our longest one last was, that stores there, and then we're going to test the length. So that all being said, let's get started in this, because we need to test this for this entire length, and we are going to start at the second position because we already have our starting point at index 0. So now we need to through our loop, we're going to start at the second position, index 1. So that's exactly what we're going to do, and all the way to the end. So there we go. So, alright, if you're a little stumped, pause this, go back to the beginning, replay it. So here's our starting point, the first letter, and then we're going to check every last letter through, and we're going to compare to see if the next is larger in the ASCII definition is if it's higher numerical value than the next. So the first time through, before it fails, ABC will be stored in long, and then we're going to test the length, and then it's going to go back to here. So let's just write this up. And this is our definition to change this to Unicode. So sub, and also we want to just check the last one that we are slicing through, because we want, as we're adding and incrementing this up, so we're slicing this, so we're going to compare this to that, this to that. So this has to be larger than this. So we need to figure out a way, because, so this is what we're going to do right here. The last item in a list. So if we're making a new substring, I know this can sound complicated, but it's really not. So right here we have our ABC was A and B. So we're going to slice this last position, and just like indexing, we take our last one, our last position, and compare it to the next. So we're going to compare B to C. So that's what we're doing right here, and I should have done that. Do that, and then less than or equal to the next ORD of I. And then if that is true, increment up by I. So alright. Okay, so we're going to stop here, and we're just going to print this each time through. And let's just print sub. Alright, so as you can see, this just increments up one letter at a time, and as long as it is not, see how these are alphabetical? That's what we want. Okay, so let's get rid of this right here. Now, I want us to look real close. So this, it worked. We don't have anything printed in here that is not in alphabetical order. But that's not really what we want. We want it to delete or reassign to a new letter, store the longest, store how long, store the longest, store how long it is, so we can have that variable, and then our substring, which is being tested against our longest substring so far. And if we get it right, we get this to come out. So alright. So now we need to test our substring against whatever our longest substring so far is. So let's do that. So we need to test and compare our two strings, our longest substring so far. And so each time our substring, our new length, gets longer, we will increase the length. So now, if this substring is longer than the current longest, which we stored at length, then it will be, then we will store that, we will assign that length to length. So basically, if this is longer than this, reassign this to this. I'll say that again. Let me type it, and then you listen and let this. So basically, if this is longer than this, the new one, reassign this to this. That's what that says. So now, and again, I can type. So this right here, if this is now, if it's going up in alphabetical order, and if this new sub is longer than the length, and it can be the last one or one that was stored a time ago, then reassign it to that length and reassign that substring from sub. That's what that means. So now here's our dilemma. Right now, let's see what happens. So when I print, because we want it to be long, not sub anymore, and also we'll print sub so you can see what is happening. So let's run this. So here we go, and it still failed. So we aren't, it's not quite right, still increasing, and it did a whole bunch of other garbage. That's not right. So we need an else statement, because we only has these is, if. So this is not correct. So we're printing it out, we're still getting, we haven't messed up anything. It's so bad. So, but we need an else right here to reassign sub to our I, and then come outside here to print long. So alright, I know this sounds pretty choppy. So alright, let's go through this. So we have our if. If the next letter is bigger than the previous, add that letter to our string that we're adding up. Then if that is longer than the length of the longest substring stored, reassign that. And then if that condition is also the same, we need to reassign long to our new substring. So, but what happens if this fails? You start over. That's what this else catches. So when this comes out, if this fails, and if we fail here, we don't need to do anything, because that's still the longest substring. So that's why we don't have another else. So if this rule fails, if when this drops off here, it goes back to A. So that's why we just assign I. So when this is a perfect example. So like if we were to print, just so you can see, let's see how many times this changes. So let's do this. And here we go. So the first A here, the next A here, a B, then A, and that's it. And then it just adds up. So let's go over this again. So this restarts 1, 2, 4 times. So here's our first restart. Here's our second restart. Here's our third restart. And here's our fourth. And it just continues on. So that is that. Now, next series, I'm going to show you a cleaner way to do this, but it can also be thought about as being more complicated. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to click that like and subscribe button, and most important, that notification bell. And please leave any comments, questions, or my absolute favorite video requests below, and I will get right to them. Thanks guys, and we'll see you next time.